The sun hangs low, casting long golden shadows across the dusty road. Chinenye, with tired eyes from a long journey, walks with purpose.
What is that smell? Mama! Is that you? Why are you looking like this?
Oh, you are here.
What? What happened to my mother?
Your mother has not been well for a long time. We have been managing.
Managing? She is sitting in the dirt eating rubbish and you call that managing?
Chinenye drops to her knees beside her suitcase. She covers her face with both hands as the first sob escapes.
My people, this is the story of what can happen when the people who were supposed to protect a mother decide she is easier to manage than to love. And don't forget to like and share the video.
The cabin lights are dim. Chinenye sits by the window, eyes bright with nervous excitement. She can't sleep. She holds her phone, scrolling through old photos of her mother. Younger Filomena smiling at her sewing table, stiff Sunday wrapper, neat hair. She closes her eyes, leaning her head against the window, whispering like a prayer.
11 years, Mama. 11 whole years. I'm coming. This time I'm really coming. You will not believe how much I have saved. I will fix the roof. I will buy you new wrappers. We will eat goat meat pepper soup every Sunday. You will laugh again, I promise.
A flight attendant passes. Chinenye opens her eyes, still smiling with pure hope. The same hopeful face from the plane now shattered. Chinenye, on her knees in the dirt, staring at her mother eating from the bin while Rosaline stands calmly in the doorway.
11 years ago. Let us go back.
It was a Tuesday in August when Chinenye got her visa. She was 23 years old, thin, very serious, and she had prayed for that visa for 2 full years.
Next.
When the officer slid the passport under the glass and said, "Next," she walked out of the embassy in Abuja, stood on the hot street, and breathed like the air itself had changed. She called her mother from a payphone because her own credit had finished. Filomena picked up on the first ring. "Mama," Chinenye said. "It came." There was silence. Then the sound of a woman who had carried too much hope for too long. Filomena Okoro cried on the phone for 3 full minutes without speaking a single word. When she finally found her voice, it was thick with tears. "God is faithful," she said. "My God is faithful."
Now, before we go further, you need to understand what the Okoro compound on Ezenwa Street looked like when Chinenye left.
The compound was not rich, but it had dignity. There was a main house with 3 rooms, a small kitchen building at the back, a mango tree in the centre that gave good shade in the afternoon, and outside, under a plastic canopy, stood Filomena's sewing table, the place where women from 3 streets away brought their aso ibi and lace to be cut by her careful hands. Filomena was not famous across Anambra, but in Niue she was known. And in Niue, being known for something good is its own kind of wealth. By the time Chinenye left for America, her father, Godwin Okoro, had already been gone for
I'll be
3
back.
years.
I just need some time.
He did not leave with
Daddy?
shouting or broken plates. He simply started sleeping somewhere else. First, it was business in Onitsha. Then the business became permanent. Then there was a younger woman named Rosaline from Oba, 15 years younger than Filomena, who had quietly taken his heart and his nights. Filomena never spoke about it. Not once. She folded that pain inside herself like expensive fabric and kept working. She swept the compound before dawn. She cut cloth. She received customers. She chose dignity every single day. But here is what Chinenye did not know when she boarded that plane at Murtala Muhammad Airport. Uncle Pascal, her father's younger brother, and the one who always sat in the best chair at Christmas and ate the biggest piece of meat, had already begun having quiet conversations with Godwin about the Ezenwachi compound, about how Filomena, married only under traditional rights, had no strong legal claim, about how, once Chinenye left and no one was watching, things could be quietly arranged. Chinenye knew none of this. She only knew that on the night before she travelled, her mother sat with her until midnight. Philomena refolded Chinenye's clothes 3 times. She tucked a small bottle of anointed olive oil into the inner pocket of the carry-on bag. Then she took both of Chinenye's hands in her own rough, needle-scarred hands.
When you get there,
Philomena said quietly,
do not forget to eat.
do not forget to eat. Not send money. Not remember us. Not come back soon. Just do not forget to eat. Chinenye Okoro's life in Los Angeles was not what people imagine when they hear America. She shared a 2-bedroom apartment in Inglewood with 2 other Nigerian women, Precious from Edo and a Yoruba girl named Sandra who worked night shifts at a packaging plant. The 3 of them moved around each other carefully, like women who respect shared space. They communicated mostly through notes on the kitchen counter. Stove off. Back at 6. Do not touch the yam water. Chinenye worked as a nursing assistant at a care home in Hawthorne. She turned patients who could not turn themselves. She fed people who had forgotten how to hold a spoon. She changed beds and recorded vitals and walked long corridors in rubber-soled shoes that squeaked on the linoleum. She did all of it without complaint. She was the woman other staff called when a patient was frightened and would not settle. She was good at staying. She sent $300 home every single month. Sometimes $400. She sent it through a man in the community named Chidi, who ran a transfer business out of his living room. Dollars in, naira out, cheaper than Western Union. Everyone trusted Chidi. She had been trusting Chidi since year 1. The money went to Uncle Pascal. And Uncle Pascal, every Sunday without fail, told her Mama was fine. She is resting today, Enan. The heat has been terrible this week. She went to evening mass. You know how your mother loves her evening mass? She says to greet you. She is so proud of you. The compound is fine. I am managing everything. You just concentrate on your work over there and leave the home side to me. His voice was always calm. Always. The calm of a man who has practiced. Chinenye believed him because she needed to. Because the alternative, that her mother was not fine, that the compound was not fine, that Uncle Pascal's soothing voice was the sound of a man building a very comfortable lie. That alternative was too heavy to carry alongside a 12-hour shift and a shared apartment and the particular loneliness of a woman who has been in a foreign country long enough to stop expecting it to feel like home. She told herself, Mama is resting. The heat has been terrible. She filed it. She moved on. But there were signs. Small, easy-to-explain signs. In the 3rd year, Chinenye sent extra money for her mother's blood pressure medication. Pascal said thank you. The medication was bought, but 3 weeks later, when Chinenye asked her mother directly how the medication was working, Philomena did not know what medication she was talking about. Chinenye told herself Mama had forgotten. She was getting older. Old people forget. She filed it. In the 6th year, Chinenye asked to video call. Pascal said the network in that area was too poor for video. He had complained, he said, even gone to the provider office himself. He would get Mama to call when the signal improved. The signal never improved. Chinenye bought a data bundle for Pascal's number through a top-up service. It worked. He called immediately to thank her, warm and generous with his gratitude. But Mama was always just out of frame. Always just gone to bathe or just come in from somewhere or just sleeping. You know how she sleeps in the afternoon now. Always just... Chinenye told herself it was the network. She filed it. Then there was Rosaline. In the 5th year after Chinenye left, Rosaline moved into the Izenwachi compound. She arrived with 2 suitcases and a story. That Godwin had asked her to check on things while he managed his business in Onitsha. She told this story pleasantly to whoever asked. She painted the front sitting room a colour she called champagne gold that Philomena had never been asked about. Chinenye heard this from her childhood friend, Obi. She called Pascal immediately. What is Rosaline doing inside my mother's house? Pascal sighed. The patient sigh of a man managing unreasonable worry. Nay. Your father asked her to help. Your mother has not been completely herself. She needs somebody there. You are not here. What do you want us to do? You just told me last week she was at evening mass. She goes to mass. But she needs help around the house. Rosaline is helping. It was so reasonable, so gentle. It closed every door Chinenye tried to open. She was afraid, but she was 9,000 kilometers away with no ticket money. She had just sent extra for a roof leak Pascal had described in careful detail. She told herself she would visit at Christmas. She would see for herself at Christmas. 7 Christmases passed like that, and somewhere inside those 7 years, Philomena stopped calling back. At first, she would say a few words when Pascal held the phone to her ear. Then the words became fewer, then 1 or 2, then just silence on the line. The sound of a phone near a woman who was there but not quite there. Pascal said she was tired. He said the evening was not a good time. He said he would arrange a call in the morning, a better time. The morning calls never happened. In January of the 11th year, Chinenye called 17 times in one day. Nobody picked up. Not Pascal. Not any number she had for the compound. She called Obi. Obi? Nobody is picking up. Is my mother okay? There was a pause on the line. Just a small one. But Chinenye had been listening to pauses for 11 years and she heard everything inside this one. Chinenye, Obi said carefully, I think you need to come home. Obi did not say more than that on the phone. Come and see for yourself, she said. I cannot explain this thing over a phone call. Just come. 2 days later, a message came to Chinenye's WhatsApp from a number she did not recognize. No greeting, no explanation, just one photograph. Or it was blurry. Taken through a gap in a fence at a low angle, the way someone takes a picture when they are afraid of being caught. The kind of picture a person only takes because they have decided they cannot keep quiet anymore. But it was clear enough. A woman in a compound yard, sitting in the dirt. Grey hair loose and spread around her head, wrapper dirty, feet bare on the red earth, eating from a tin with her fingers, the way a person eats when they believe no one is watching and no one cares. Chinenye knew those feet. She knew the way the toes turned. She knew the small scar on the left ankle from when Mama slipped at the standpipe when Chinenye was 7 years old. She put the phone down, picked it up, put it down again. She called the number back. A woman's voice answered, low and careful. The voice of someone speaking near a closed door. Who is this? Chinenye asked. My name is Benedicta, the woman said. I am your mother's neighbour, the one on the left side of the compound. I have been watching this situation for a long time, and I can no longer keep quiet. My conscience will not let me sleep. What is happening to her? Your mother has not been right for more than 2 years. Her mind comes and goes. Some days she does not know the day or the month. Some days she does not know herself. A pause. That woman they put in your mother's house, that Rosaline, she does not feed her properly. She does not take her to any hospital. She just leaves her, sometimes outside, rain or shine. When it rains, I am the one who goes and carries her inside. Me, a neighbour, not family. Me. Chinenye's heart was beating very fast, like something trying to break out from behind her ribs. The money, she heard herself say. She had not planned to ask it. Her mouth asked it on its own. I send money every month, $300 every month for 11 years. Where is this money going? Benedicta was quiet for a moment, a careful quiet. Chinenye, she said, very gently, the way you speak to someone standing at the edge of something. Please just come home. She bought the ticket that same night. She sat at the small kitchen table in Inglewood with her laptop open, and she booked the most direct route she could find. Lagos first, then Enugu. She spent $4,000, nearly everything she had saved since June. She did not hesitate over it for even 1 minute. She did not call Pascal. She did not call Rosaline. More, she did not tell a single person on the Ezenwachi Street side that she was coming. In 11 years, it was the first decision she had made about her mother's life without first asking permission from people who had no right to give it. She packed one bag. She put on her navy blazer because she had learned, living in America, that a woman who arrives looking prepared is spoken to differently. She needed to be spoken to correctly when she landed. She needed people to look at her and understand that she was not coming to visit. She was coming to account for things. Obi met her at Akanu Ibiam Airport in Enugu in the early morning. She was standing just past the arrivals barrier with both arms already open, the way a good friend stands when they know words are not the first thing needed. Chinenye walked straight into her arms. She did not cry. She stood very still for a long moment, her chin on Obi's shoulder, her eyes on the terminal floor. "How bad is it?" she said. Obi held her tighter. "Prepare your heart," she said. The drive from Enugu to Niue was 1 hour. Chinenye sat in the passenger seat of Obi's husband's car and did not speak. She watched the landscape change, highway becoming town road becoming the familiar streets of her childhood. A church rebuilt, a market spread wider than she remembered, a school she had passed every morning for 18 years. Then Obi turned on to Ezenwachi Street. The mango tree was still there. Everything else had changed. The gate was rusty, the compound walls were stained and cracked, where Philomena's canopy used to stand, where the sewing table used to be, where women once brought their lace and their aso-ebi, there were weeds, tall ones, and pieces of a broken bucket, and a torn plastic bag, and the general look of a place that had been given up on, slowly, over many years. Chinenye got out of the car. She put her hand on the gate and pushed it open. The iron groaned just as it had groaned the day she arrived, because it was still the same iron, still the same neglect. And that was when the smell reached her fully. Not just sharp now and full and old and layered, rotting food underneath and something human underneath that, the smell of a person who has not been properly cared for in a very long time. She walked into the compound. She saw her mother. She covered her mouth with both hands. And from the doorway of the main house, Rosaline appeared. She came down the 2 steps slowly. In a wrapper and a sleeveless blouse, her hair tied back, her arms folding themselves across her chest as she moved. She looked at Chinenye the way you look at someone whose name has been in your head for a long time. "Oh," she said, "you are here. Not welcome. Not your mother has not been well." Just those 3 words, flat and prepared. "What happened to my mother?" Chinenye said. Her voice was quiet, the quietest it would be for the rest of that day. "Your mother has not been herself for a long time," Rosaline said. "We have been managing. It has not been easy. She is sitting in the dirt beside a rubbish bin, eating from a tin. She came outside herself this morning. She does that sometimes. We cannot tie her. Why is she not in a hospital? Your uncle said there was no money for hospital." Chinenye felt something go very cold inside her, quiet and cold like a door closing in an empty room. "There is no money," she said. "I have been sending $300 every month for 11 years. Where has this money been going?" Rosaline's face did not move. She had a face that had practiced being still. "You should speak to Pascal about money," she said. "I don't handle money matters. I am only here to help. You painted my mother's sitting room champagne gold, and you are only here to help." Something moved in Rosaline's eyes. Fast. But her face stayed where it was. Obi had come through the gate by now. She stood behind Chinenye, close, the way a good woman stands when she knows the person in front of her might need something solid at her back. Then Uncle Pascal arrived. He came through the gate, breathing fast. Because news on Ezenwachi Street moves faster than cars, and someone had already called him. He was a big man, Pascal. The kind of man who fills a space and knows it. He spread his arms wide when he saw Chinenye, his face arranging itself into something warm and familiar and welcoming. "Chinenye, my daughter." "When did you arrive? Why did you not tell us? We would have—" "Where is the money, Uncle Pascal?" He stopped. The warmth drained from his face. What remained underneath it was not guilt, it was calculation. "Money. Come, let us sit down and talk like family. You are tired from—" 11 years, Chinenye said. 11 years of $300 every month. My mother is eating from a rubbish bin. What happened to the money? There have been many expenses, Nen. The compound needs... You told me about the roof in year 6. I paid for it. Separately. What else? His mouth opened. It closed. He looked at Rosaline. Rosaline looked away. At the gate, a small group had gathered. Neighbours. An old woman with a wrapper tied at her chest. 2 young men who had stopped what they were doing. Ezenwachi Street was watching. Ezenwachi Street had always watched. It never forgot anything. Chinenye turned away from both of them. She walked across the compound to where her mother was still sitting in the dirt, still eating from the tin, the noise of everything happening around her not seeming to reach her at all. Chinenye crouched down. Right there in the red earth in her navy blazer, she put her hand on her mother's arm. "Mama," she said. Philomena looked up. Her eyes were cloudy, not empty, but cloudy, like a window that has not been cleaned in a long time. She looked at Chinenye's face with the slow, searching look of someone trying to find something they have not seen in many years. "Chinenye," she said. Her voice was dry and cracked, like a thing that had not been used properly. "Yes, Mama." "It is me." Philomena lifted one hand and touched Chinenye's face. Her fingers were cold and light, like she was afraid that what she was touching might dissolve. "I knew you were coming," she whispered. "I told them. They said I was only dreaming." Chinenye took her mother's cold hand and pressed it against her own warm cheek and held it there. She did not cry, but her heart was beating like something that had been locked up for 11 years and had finally heard the sound of a key. Obi helped Chinenye carry Philomena inside, or not into the main house. Chinenye would not bring her mother into a room that Rosaline had decorated and claimed and moved through as though it belonged to her. There was a small room near the kitchen building at the back of the compound, Chinenye's childhood room, dusty, the mattress thin, but untouched. Rosaline had not bothered with the back room. There was nothing in it she wanted. Chinenye cleaned it herself while Obi boiled water on the small gas cooker she found under the kitchen counter. The cooker still smelled like it always had, old gas and the ghost of every palm oil stew Philomena had ever made. Some smells go so deep into a wall that even years of neglect cannot remove them. They bathed Philomena. They dressed her in a new wrapper. Chinenye had packed 2 new wrappers in Inglewood without fully understanding why, and now she understood. They sat her on the thin mattress and Obi opened the container of ofeonugbu she had brought from her own kitchen that morning. Philomena ate slowly, but she ate, and as she ate, something began to happen to her face. Not a full return, not a sudden clearing, but a slow lifting, like the first light before proper dawn. Something coming back to the window it had been standing away from. That evening, when Obi stepped outside to make calls, Chinenye sat on the floor beside the mattress. The small kerosene lamp was between them, just the 2 of them. And Philomena began to talk, not in straight lines. Her words came the way water finds a path through cracked ground, in starts, in pools, following the shape of what was underneath. But Chinenye listened. She listened to every word. Pascal started coming more often after you left, Philomena said. He said Godwin sent him to manage things. Did he tell you I was sending money? He said you were sending something small. He said things were hard for you in America. He said you were trying your best, but it was not much. She looked at the lamp flame. He said not to expect too much. That life abroad is very expensive. Chinenye closed her eyes. $300 a month. $400 when she had extra. 11 years. And they had told her mother the money was small. They had told her Chinenye was struggling. And Rosaline? Chinenye asked. Philomena's face changed. Something in it tightened and went flat. She came one day with her bags. Pascal said Godwin sent her to help. I said this is my house. Pascal said in Igbo custom this compound belongs to the Okoro family. Not to me alone. He said your father owns it. And what your father decides, That is what stands. A pause. I did not fight. What could I do? Who would I have called? You could have called me, Mamma. Philomena looked at her, directly, and for a moment the cloudiness shifted completely, and what was underneath it was very clear. The eyes of a woman who knew exactly what she knew. Every time I asked Pascal to let me call you, she said, he said you were at work. Or sleeping. He said the time difference made it difficult. He said he had already passed my message. Chinenye said nothing. After some time, Philomena said, I stopped asking. I thought, she has her own life now. I should not be a burden on her. She is working hard. I must not drag her down. You could never drag me down. I know that now. Her voice was very quiet. But when you are alone for a very long time, the lies people tell you start to sound like the truth. That is the most dangerous thing about being alone. You lose the other voice, the one that corrects. She put her hand on Chinenye's knee. Light as a leaf. But I always knew you were coming, she said. Even on the very dark days. Even when I did not know what month it was. I would see your face, not a dream, not a vision, just your face. And I would think, she is coming. She has not forgotten me. Chinenye put her head down on her mother's knee, like she was 7 years old, like nothing in between had happened. Philomena placed her rough hand on her daughter's head and held it there. The lamp burned between them. Outside, Newe settled into its evening, generators coughing to life, a radio somewhere playing something gospel, dogs on the next street answering each other. The compound was quiet and the room was warm with the smell of ofeonugbu and old gas and the specific presence of two people who had found each other after being kept apart by a long, deliberate fog. The fog had not lifted fully, but the window was open again. Chinenye woke before the sun came up. She had not truly slept. She had been lying on a thin mat beside her mother's mattress, waking every hour to put her hand near Philomena's mouth and feel the breath, to watch the chest rise and fall, to make sure she had not come home only to lose her in the night. She was still there, still breathing, still here. Chinenye got up quietly. She washed her face at the back tap. She dressed. And then she went through the main house. Rosaline's door was still closed, the sound of heavy sleep behind it. Chinenye did not knock. She went to the sitting room, to the old wooden cabinet where her father had always kept documents. Rosaline had filled the top shelves with her things, creams, church bulletins, a pouch of jewellery that clinked softly when Chinenye moved it aside. But at the very back, behind everything, there was a brown envelope. She brought it to the window where the early light was just beginning. Inside, the original land records, the community title documents for the Ezenwachi compound, and this is what made her go completely still. A letter in her father's handwriting, written 3 years ago, addressed to Uncle Pascal. She read it standing in the champagne gold sitting room in the grey morning light. It was not a long letter. To Godwin Okoro had never been a man who used extra words, but the words he used were clear. He had given Pascal formal authority over the compound. He had listed Rosaline as the resident caretaker. And he had written, in his own hand, in blue pen, on lined paper, that his daughter Chinenye's monthly contributions should be managed by Pascal for the upkeep of the compound and the family. Managed by Pascal. Chinenye folded the letter carefully. She put it in her blazer pocket. She called Obi. Come, and bring that lawyer you mentioned, the female one. Attorney Nosy Dyke arrived at 10 o'clock. She was a small, precise woman with reading glasses on a chain, and a leather folder she set on the outdoor table with the quiet authority of someone who already knew this table was going to hold important things. Chinenye laid everything out. The full transfer history from Chidi, she had sent him a WhatsApp at 3 in the morning, and he had sent the complete log before dawn. Every transaction, every date, every amount. $300 a month. Sometimes 400, 11 years, calculated at the rate at each point of transfer. It was a number that made Ngozi Dyke pause. She took off her glasses, polished them, put them back on. Then the letter from Godwin. Then the land title. The letter gives Pascal authority to manage, Ngozi said when she had read everything. It does not give him authority to keep. Those are two very different things in law. She tapped the transfer records. This is 11 years of documented money sent explicitly for a specific person's welfare. We now need to establish what it was spent on. Do you have anything in writing from Pascal about what the money was used for? 4 years of WhatsApp messages. He told me about the roof, the medication, food. I have all of it. Screenshot everything. Every single message. She looked up. And I want to speak with your mother, if she is able. She sat with Philomena for 40 minutes that afternoon. Chinenye waited outside in the compound, pacing the length of it slowly, back and forth under the mango tree. At one point she heard her mother's voice through the window. Not the thin, cracked voice of the night before, but something with more substance underneath it. Something that remembered it, had once been strong. When Ngozi came out, her face was very composed, but something sat differently in her eyes. She is more coherent than her condition suggests, Ngozi said quietly. She remembers a great deal, the conditions she has lived in, the withholding of food and medication, the money. She stopped. I have practiced law in this town for 20 years. What was done to this woman has a name, several names, and I intend to use all of them. That afternoon, Obi drove Chinenye to Onitsha, 1 hour on the expressway. Chinenye sat in the passenger seat and said nothing. She watched the road and the trucks and the market women at the roadside, and she felt very, very calm. The particular calm of a woman who has made a decision she has been putting off for too long. Godwin Okoro lived on a quiet street in Fega. A decent house, curtains on the windows, a newer car in the yard than anything on Izenwachi Street had ever seen. He answered the door himself. When he saw his daughter standing there, his face tried several things at once, surprise and something behind the surprise that was closer to guilt, and behind that, the beginning of a smile that could not complete itself. Chinenye, he said. Where is Mama's money, Papa? He stepped back. Come inside. Let us not stand here at the... Where is Mama's money? He went still. He was old now, 67, heavier, his hair fully grey. He was not the man who had once sat at the head of the table on Izenwachi Street and received the largest piece of meat without being asked. Standing in his own doorway in front of his daughter, he looked smaller than she had been carrying him in her memory. It is complicated, he said. It is not complicated, Chinenye said. Her voice was flat and even and very cold. You told Pascal to manage my money. Pascal did not manage it. He kept it, and while he kept it, Mama was sitting in the dirt eating from a rubbish bin. 11 years, Papa. Every month. Explain the complicated part to me. He opened his mouth. He closed it. He looked at the floor of his own decent hallway. I did not know it had gone this far, he said, very quietly. Pascal told me she was being looked after. And you believed him. He is my brother. And she was your wife. The word was landed in the air between them like something dropped from a height. She was your wife for 27 years. She raised your only child alone when you left. And you handed her care to your brother and believed his phone calls over the evidence of your own daughter's money. Godwin said nothing. I need you to listen to me, Chinenye said. Ngozi Dyke is filing papers this week. She will contact you. You will cooperate with everything she asks, the land, the accounts, everything, because if you do not, I will make sure that every person who knows the Okoro name, every person in the Umunna, in your church, in Onitsha, and in Newi, knows exactly what was done to Philomena Okoro in the name of family management. She turned and walked back to the car. She did not look back. 3 days after Chinenye walked through the gate of the Ezenwachi compound, She took her mother to St. Charles Borromeo Hospital in Onitsha. Dr. Emeka Nwachukwu was younger than she expected. Early 30s, glasses, the efficient and slightly tired manner of a man who has been seeing too many cases that should never have reached him. He examined Philomena thoroughly. He asked careful questions. He was patient in a way that did not feel performed. Afterward, he sat with Chinenye in his small office. "Your mother is not mad," he said. He said it plainly. The way someone says a thing they have had to say too many times. What people have been calling madness is a combination of things. Severe depression, long-standing, completely untreated, grief-induced cognitive decline, malnutrition, which has its own effect on the brain over time. And, he paused, she has not had her blood pressure medication consistently for at least 3 years. That alone causes significant neurological damage. Chinenye sat with that for a moment. Is it reversible? Not completely, but significantly with proper care. Medication, good food. And this, he leaned forward slightly, is not optional. Human presence. Consistent, warm, safe human presence. The brain is not a machine. It needs people. Her brain has been starved of people and safety for years. That is what has done the deepest damage. He looked at her directly. The fact that she recognized you immediately when you arrived. The fact that she is already clearer than when you brought her in this morning. These are very good signs. She will have presence, Chinenye said. She will not be alone again. He gave her a treatment plan, medication, weekly appointments, the name of a community health worker named Ifeoma who could visit the compound on Tuesdays and Thursdays. He wrote it all down and placed the folder in Chinenye's hands. As they were leaving, Philomena stopped at his office door. She turned back. "Young man," she said, in her old voice, direct and unhurried. "I was a seamstress, a very good one. Women came from 3 streets away." Dr. Nwachukwu looked up, surprised, then genuinely pleased. "I believe you," he said. Philomena nodded, satisfied, and walked out. Chinenye stood in the doorway for a moment. She pressed her hand hard over her mouth. Then she followed her mother into the corridor. While the medical work began, the compound battle moved quickly. Ngozi Dyke did not believe in taking time she did not need. Within a week, she had filed a formal complaint with the Nnewi police. She had sent legal letters to Godwin Okoro and to Uncle Pascal. And she had sent formal notice to the Okoro Umuna, the extended family council, citing the misuse of entrusted funds, the conditions of Philomena's care, and the question of residential rights. The Umuna meeting was held on a Saturday morning. 12 men, family elders, sitting in the main house on Ezenwachi Street. Rosaline had been asked to leave the compound the day before. She packed without speaking to anyone. She carried her bags to the gate in 2 trips. She walked past Philomena, who was sitting in her chair outside the kitchen with a plate of yam porridge on her lap, and she did not look at her once. Chinenye stood at the gate and watched the taxi until it turned the corner. She said nothing. There was nothing that needed to be said. The Umuna meeting was loud. Some of the elders tried the things elders try when a woman challenges what has been arranged. Appeals to custom, arguments about a man's right over his own property, suggestions that this matter should remain inside the family rather than in courts. One elder spoke for 15 minutes about what it meant to bring lawyers into a family matter. Ngozi Dyke sat at the end of the table with her leather folder and her reading glasses and let them finish. Every word. Then she spoke for 20 minutes. She cited the Supreme Court's 2014 ruling on female inheritance. She cited the National Mental Health Act. She placed the transfer records on the table. And she placed Benedicta's photograph, the blurry one, taken through the fence gap, where every man in that room could see it. The room went quiet. An elder named Chief Ikenna Ejike sat at the far end of the table. He was very old, white-haired, with the kind of stillness that belongs to a man who has learned that waiting to speak is its own kind of power. He had not said a word during any of the noise. When the room finally went quiet, he spoke. Not to Ngozi Dyke, not to Chinenye, to Uncle Pascal, who was sitting with his eyes on the table. "I watched your father bring you into this family," Chief Ikenna said. "I watched this family feed you and clothe you and stand behind you. And you took from a defenseless woman. You took from a daughter who trusted you from 9,000 kilometers away. You told that daughter her mother was resting when her mother was in the dirt." Pascal did not raise his head. "I am old," Chief Ikenna said. "I will not be here many more years. But I want to leave this earth knowing that when this family was asked to account for what it did, it was honest enough to account." He looked around the table slowly. "We will cooperate fully with this lawyer, and Pascal will answer for what he took." No vote was needed. Chief Ikenna Ejike had spoken. Outside the house in the compound, Benedicta had come to sit with Philomena while the meeting ran. She came to stand beside Chinenye now, in the midday heat under the mango tree. "You are a very strong woman," Benedicta said. "My mother is the strong one," Chinenye said. "What she carried alone, for all those years. What she held together inside herself and did not break under. I am not that strong." Benedicta was quiet for a moment. "She talked about you," she said, "even in the worst of it. She would say, 'My daughter is in America. She is working very hard. She will come.'" She touched Chinenye's arm. She never stopped believing it. 6 weeks after Chinenye pushed open the rusty gate of the Ezenwachi compound, her mother asked for her scissors. It was
Patience,
a Wednesday
my
morning.
child.
The compound was clean now. The weeds were gone. 2 young men from the street had cleared them in a single afternoon. The walls had been replastered. The mango tree had been trimmed so the light came through differently, falling in wide pieces on the red earth below. The rubbish bin was gone. A new one, smaller and clean, stood at the side of the yard. Philomena had chosen the new paint for the sitting room herself. Chinenye had held the colour card in front of her, and Philomena had pointed without hesitation. A warm, deep cream, the colour of good shea butter. "That one," she said. And that was that. She was on her medication. She was eating properly. Ifeoma, the community health worker, came every Tuesday and Thursday and stayed long enough to check everything that needed checking and talk to Philomena the way you talk to a person whose mind you respect. The fog was lifting. Not in one movement, slowly, unevenly, the way the dry season lifts. Some mornings Philomena was very clear, talking about customers from 30 years ago, asking about people by their full names. Some mornings the clouds settled back. Once she called Chinenye by her own mother's name, and then caught herself and pressed her lips together tight, embarrassed. "I know who you are," she said firmly, to herself as much as to Chinenye. "I know." But the dark days, the days when she sat without hearing anything, without feeling the ground under her, those days were becoming fewer, and on the good days, which were becoming more, she was very much herself. On this particular Wednesday morning, Philomena looked up from her chair under the canopy and said, "Where are my dressmaking scissors? The big ones. The good pair." And then Chinenye found them at the back of the kitchen cabinet, wrapped in a piece of old ankara, the way Philomena had always wrapped them. Heavy, good steel, still sharp. She brought them out and put them in her mother's hands. Philomena turned them over slowly. She opened them, closed them, opened them again and listened to the sound. She held the blade up to the morning light. "I had a customer," she said, "just before everything changed. A bride. A very beautiful dress. She left the fabric with me. She never came back to collect it." "I remember her," Chinenye said. "The one with the beaded bodice design." "Yes." Philomena closed the scissors and rested them on her lap. "I wonder if she found another seamstress. I will find out for you." "Maybe I will start again," Philomena said. "Something small first. A simple blouse. To see if my hands still know." "Your hands know," Chinenye said. They never forgot. Philomena looked at her daughter for a moment. Then she looked out at the mango tree. "Are you going back?" she said. Chinenye had known this question was coming. She had been holding her answer for days, turning it over, checking it from different sides. But sitting in the morning light of the reclaimed compound, watching her mother hold her own scissors again, she found the answer was already made. "I have to go back for a little while," she said. "A few months, to finish what I left, to sort my things properly. And after? I am coming back. Properly, not a visit. Back. I am going to work out an arrangement that lets me be here and also work. But I will not be 9,000 kilometers away while you are here. That part is finished." Philomena nodded slowly, as though this was something she had always known would be said eventually, and she had simply been waiting for the day. "When you go," she said, "bring me back that lotion. The American one, the blue bottle. It is very good for the hands when you are working with scissors for a long time." Chinenye laughed. Just once, but it was real. 2 bottles, she said. They sat together as the morning moved and the mango tree held its shape against the dewy sky. The compound was not the same as it had been. It would never be the same. But it was alive again. It was held by someone who understood exactly what it was worth. In a few days, Ngozi Dyke would complete the legal documentation that gave Philomena Okoro security in her home for the rest of her life. Uncle Pascal would begin repaying what he had taken. Not all at once, not quickly, but under a legal arrangement with teeth. Godwin Okoro would face things he had spent years avoiding. Some of those things would reach the people he sat among in church. Some of them he would find ways to diminish, because men like Godwin Okoro are very good at diminishing. But the compound on Ezenwachi Street would belong to Philomena. The mango tree would stay. Chinenye reached over and covered her mother's hand with her own. The hand holding the scissors, the rough hand, the hand that smelled of anointing oil and sewing chalk and all the years of keeping going when there was no good reason left to keep going. "I am sorry it took me so long, Mama," she said. Philomena turned and looked at her daughter in the morning light. The cloudiness had shifted. What was in her eyes now was something old and clear and completely itself. The eyes of a woman who had survived a very long night and who knew exactly which face she was looking at. "You are here now," Philomena said. She opened her scissors, and she began to cut.